Hi everyone and welcome to another piloting training video. It's going to be a short one. Over the last couple of days, having been out a week and having a fabulous time being at home, there is one thing that's been bugging me the last week. Not in a bad way, but it's something that obviously affects anyone that has an amputation. And it's taking on and off the actual prosthetic itself. So I've got another camera that I'm going to show you, actually go through how I take it off and put it on, and essentially what you have to go through. Because essentially the prosthetic is held in place by friction, and that's held in by an actual liner, which I'll get to in just a second. Now the stump itself, I'll talk as I'm actually taking this off. The stump itself is actually still quite swollen. One kind of bad piece of news is that because of the way that St George's did the actual operation, they've left quite a considerable amount of soft tissue, which you'll see in just a moment. Now the problem with that is, as I heal, because at that moment the soft tissue itself is still quite hard, because it's still healing. We're only a couple of months down the road of that healing process. Now the problem with this is as the actual tissue softens, it's going to mean the tissue is going to play more of a part in taking the prosthetic on and off, and generally it compacting and squishing around within the prosthetic itself. What that means is potentially I could end up creating sores. It's just going to be a new pile of shit that I'm going to have to deal with. So they're probably going to have to do another operation, which is not something that I really wanted to hear. However, they're essentially going to be trimming away the excess soft tissue. So it does mean I'm probably going to have more surgery. I'm slightly bummed out about it, but I'm not surprised. This is something that a lot of amputees do have to go through. It is slightly because of the way that they close the actual wound itself. Although I am pissed off because this is an elective. I wasn't in the road traffic accident. It wasn't a case of, oh shit, we only have a certain amount of tissue to play with. They had all the tissue in the world. I'm a meaty person. You got plenty of shit to do. Or plenty of shit of me to play with. So, yeah, I'm annoyed by it, but is being annoyed by it going to help me at all? No. So anyway, as you can see, this is the stump as it is at the moment. Now I do have a slight opening here and a big scab here, which is really the only part of the superficial part of the actual scar that is still in a healing process. I mean, it was done in February, so we knew it was going to be still a little bit tender. All this under here is where all this soft tissue is, so I'll give you a little jiggle. No slow-mos though. And obviously this is going to soften down. Now this is reduced a remarkable amount within the short period of time that I've been wearing the prosthetic. So you can see over here is where the bone actually kind of stops. So this is still all kind of swollen. This will all shrink back and then come around, but I am going to have this kind of droop. But anyway, so the prosthetic itself, this is obviously my leg, my zombie leg, or Moses as I now like to call it, because I get on any mode of transportation and they see that I have a prosthetic leg. People literally cannot give me their seats quick enough. So pregnancy, schmegnancy, chop your leg off. If you want to sit on the tube all the time, don't matter what time of day it is, get yourself one of these. Anyway, so prosthetic leg. We have neoprene that's over the top, which is basically just in case the fit is too loose, it won't just tumble off while I'm walking down the street. You've got the actual rod itself here that goes onto an ankle. This leg actually does move side to side, which gives you added mobility, which is because I'm quite an active person. This is your liner. So this is basically moulded to the size of my stump when it was done about a month ago now. Inside of here is what they call woolly worms. Now these basically are kind of they have a couple of uses. The main one is so you can feel if you're mashing down into the bottom of the stump. They give a little bit of security with that as well. It also stimulates the actual stump itself, so it stops pooling of fluid. Because obviously when I was recovering, my leg would be constantly up on the wheelchair because obviously it stops fluid buildup, which can be problematic. But the woolly worms, because they stimulate the bottom of the stump, they stop it just going to one specific area. So anyway, so also with this, because I have quite a big stump and it bulbs out, so it's a bit like a peanut, I suppose is the best way of putting it. So what they had to do was they had to fit me a little slit, if you can see that there, in the side of it, which just adds a little bit more flexibility when I'm putting my leg in and out of the actual liner itself. And we've got this over it just to kind of aid it into the actual prosthesis itself. So, let's talk about socks. You get a lot of socks. And this is the game that I hate playing. If this was made by Mattel, I would not buy it in a million years. Essentially what it is, you have two types of socks here. And also it's good to mention, I actually have, I don't have the below leg socks, or below knee amputee socks should I say, because my stump is quite big. So I have the through knee, above knee socks essentially. But this is a thin sock and this is a thick sock. This sock is equivalent to 3 of these. Now, when I first had the prosthetic, I couldn't even wear a sock. I had to wear a very thin, like this material here. So, very thin, kind of meshy material, just because my stump was too big. As time goes by, you actually walking on the prosthetic allows blood flow to travel through, new nutrients to flow through, so it actually helps reduce the swelling overall. So then you usually start off with one. Depending on the day, depending on how you're feeling, depending on the temperature, your stump could be a lot smaller than it usually is. It could be actually swell up. So it's a complete guess game of what feels right. So you'll say I'll start off with one sock. I'll feel like I'm coming out of the actual prosthetics. I'll put on another sock. If the same happens again, then I'll put on a thick sock. Then I might find that the thick sock actually is too tight, because that can cause unwanted pressures in parts of the stump you just don't want it. So then you might have a half sock, which is essentially just cutting a sock in half. So it gives you the added stability up top, but allows your stump to still be a little bit freer in the bottom. It is a pain in the arse, but what's the alternative? A wheelchair. So you know what, it's a game, it's annoying, but it's worth doing. So you need to make sure that the actual seam of the actual sock goes in line with your actual scar line. Okay, so I'm going to put the thin one over the top of that. Don't worry, the staining isn't blood, it's iodine, which they put over the actual parts of the scar which need protecting. So you've got your socks on, make sure there are no... In actual fact, that one needs adjusting because that's not the right way round. There we go. So, just make sure that nothing's bunched up anywhere, which is all good. Okay, now the liner. Now this is probably going to be different for some people because, like I said, I've got a really voluptuous stump. So sometimes they will milk, what they call milking. So basically there's a hole in the bottom here. You will put I can never remember the name of this material. A silk, whatever the fuck you want to call it, over your actual stump itself. Then they will pull it through the bottom here, the excess of the actual material, and then they will pull the actual stump through. The reason why they do that is simply because it helps the stump kind of spread out evenly. Sometimes when you jam this in here, especially when you've got excess kind of soft tissue, you can end up almost folding the stump in a little bit, so you're kind of mashing it in rather than making sure it's all okay. Now, on the other camera here, you see what I'm trying to do is line this part up. So on this liner is this hump. Okay, so on this hump, I want to line that up. Put it in line with my actual patella tendon. because that's where it's supposed to be. Also to mention, when they do the actual liner, they build up tolerances. So you want the pressure to be in this area. You can see the actual patches here where they've actually built it up here as well. So you do not want the pressure to be kind of around here, because you have nerves and you have pressure points that you really do not want to have your weight kind of pushing through that. Also, again, you don't want to be, as a below knee amputee, you do not want to be putting pressure on the bottom of your stump, because that's going to be all manner of horrible, painful, and everything in between. So I'm constantly checking out. I do get this wrong often, because I'm constantly thinking, is that the right place? I also need to be mindful, because of this slit, it can catch the skin in between, because, you know, us bigger gals, it happens. So, on the actual prosthetic itself, I have a kind of guide, I don't know if you can really see it, of where I need to, I've learnt just through trial and error, where I want to have this hump of the actual liner going into. Because you need to make sure that your liner is lined up correctly, because not only is it going to cause you a lot of pain, but it can actually cause, it will cause injury as well. So if you can see on here, this is actually it's pretty good for usually after this 2 or 3 times. This is perfectly lined up, so it follows the contour of the actual prosthesis itself. So that's all in place where it needs to be. Next thing we need to do is obviously roll up this neoprene. Now this I hate, because it rolls up on me, makes my leg look disgusting, although that's partly down to weight loss and just having loose skin. I hate things that roll up, you see, that bugs the piss out of me, but you know, small things. This makes it obviously more sweaty as well, because neoprene is not exactly a breathable material. So that is actually all in place. So what I'm going to do now is just stand up for a second. And what you're doing is you're putting pressure through the actual prosthetic, just to see if there's any twinges anywhere where it's hurting. It's actually feeling really, really comfortable. I'm constantly shocked at how well my prosthesis has fitted and continues to feel, because a lot of people that I saw in there below leg amputees would have constant trouble and problems when they first got their prosthetic. My fitter, Sinead, who's an amazing person, was actually pissed off that she didn't have more to do with this, because I felt fantastic with it. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to do this video just to show you what it's actually like to have your prosthetic fitted. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe to the channel. More videos coming very, very soon. But until then, my name's Jay. I'll see you then. Bye.